We're in the Bassmaster studios, taking some time to talk to our Elite Series pros and seeing what they're doing during this unexpected break in the season. Obviously, we'd like to be out on the Bassmaster Elite Series trail right now. It's a great time, great weather, and the fish are ready to bite. But we're talking to one of our friends from up north, one of the guys that's not even focused on spawning fish right now, but rather fishing through the ice, and that's one Jeff Gustafson. Jeff, how are you today?
Hey guys, we're doing good up here. But yeah, I've been, normally this time of year we've got top-notch fishing in the south, and I'm at home. I've been doing a ton of ice fishing, and I did a lot of it growing up. I think my first paying sponsor was actually one of them was Strikemaster ice augers. So way back when, ice fishing is a big part of my lifestyle, living up here. But yeah, that's what we've been doing. My wife Shelby and I live about 10 miles out of Kenora, Ontario. So we kind of live in the bush on a small little lake, and then I can get on Lake of the Woods, which is 1 million acres, huge. And, with ATV or snowmobile, and we go out and catch walleyes and lake trout, crappies, pike, and have some fun. So that's what we've been doing.
I love your decorations. If you were to Skype me at my house, I don't nearly have a moose sitting in my living room, but that's awesome that you do. So there's got to be a cool story about it. Tell me that before we move on to bass fishing. Tell me about that moose story.
Well, right where I live, we see a moose or two maybe every year, but if you go a few hours north, it's the deer kind of stop and it's moose country. And that one I got, I think, back in like 2008. And yeah, it's like not quite a 50-incher. A 50-incher here is a pretty big one, but it was pretty cool. So I got it mounted, and it took me like a whole day to get it. I kind of have a pretty small little house here, and it took me about a whole day to get it in. So it's never coming out of here, no matter, not unless someone takes the door off or something. But yeah, Canadian decoration.
That's exactly right. So for you, I've never been ice fishing. Probably a lot of our viewers haven't either. So explain to me, have you ever caught a fish too big for the hole that you've drilled? Or is it just look that way from videos and photos that when they look down at the hole, it doesn't look that big, but it probably, the size of the augers, they've got to be pretty substantial holes sometimes.
So there's 3 basic sizes for augers. You got a 6-incher, 8-incher, and a 10-incher. 8-inch is the most common. That's what I use the most. 6-inch is too small for, any of the big fish that we have up here, but and then I'll use a 10-incher for if I'm after big pike or lake trout. But most of the time, you can fit a fish up an 8-inch hole. But biggest lake trout I've ever caught through the ice was like around 30 pounds, and it was an 8-inch hole. And my buddy Dave Bennett, one of my good friends here, he actually stuck his arm down the hole, like up to his shoulder. It was like this time of year, maybe late March, and so it wasn't super cold out, but he like took one for the team and grabbed it for me. And I actually put a picture of it up on my social media last week, and yeah, it was a big one. So, but usually you lose that. So when you're ice fishing, most of the time, if you're going to lose the fish, it's not very often when you're just like reeling it up. But especially some of the bigger fish, they'll fight really hard, around the hole, and then they'll nick your line, break off, or they get the hook. If there's like some of the baits that have treble hooks, a hook might get caught on the ice, and then it's just like snagging a reed down in Florida, and they pull off.
I don't know if Floridians would agree that hooking ice would be like a reed, but I got your analogy. I understood it. It's a piece of structure that messes it up. But for you, Gussie, it's got to be a little bit of a weird time. We're talking about fishing smart and living smart. Obviously, you guys are doing the best. You and Shelby just fishing with each other, not getting around a lot of other people. But it's got to be weird to be at home this time of the year. You're probably never home right now. You're always gone on the trail fishing. So what kind of adjustments are you having? Plus, with the border, that's something that a lot of people don't take into consideration, especially during a pandemic, your travel, your ease of travel.
Well, after, Chickamauga got canceled, we actually, right after the Classic, we went over to South Carolina, went to Santee Cooper for a day and looked around. I've never been there before. And then we were actually up in North Georgia at a little lake and got message that Chickamauga was canceled. So we just decided to head home, and I wasn't sure whether to leave my boat down at, at Carl Jacobson's place. I was going to stay there while we were at Chickamauga. And then I just figured, who knows how long maybe this will last 4 weeks or 6 weeks. And I'm going to want my boat at home by that point. And, I'm glad. So I ended up bringing it home, because during the season, I mean, I'll get home for a week here and there this time of year, but usually I'm leaving my boat and truck in Atlanta or Birmingham somewhere and flying home, and then just fly back, because it's just kind of too far to drive. So, we came home, and now we're sort of stuck at home here. So there's not much you can do. I don't think anyone really, knows what's going to happen. But it is what it is.
So for you, Gussie, you just came off your first year on the Bassmaster Elite Series 2019, a great season. We saw you on Bassmaster Live a couple times for sure, and then you qualified for your first Classic. What kind of change has Jeff Gustafson had for his fishing career from January 2019 through, April of 2020 with what you've learned about yourself and just being able to accomplish some goals?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've had the best experience and the most fun, fishing over the last year, and the whole experience has been top notch for me. Obviously, dream come true to get to fish in the Classic, and I had a tough year, tough start to the year last year. Tough first tournament in Florida. The next one at Lanier, I led the first day and then somehow managed to catch 2 fish the second day. So I kind of bombed that one. And then I started to turn things around and then had a really good, strong finish to the season. So, I kind of got to the Classic the hard way, but it was a lot of fun. And, I have a great crew of buddies that I travel with and stay with, Chris and Corey Johnston, Chris Groh, and Seth Fider. And at most of the events, we rent a house where we all stay together, and that's part of the fun of doing this stuff is we're a little family on the road, and we can compare notes a little bit, and it's just a lot more fun. We're gone for stretches gone from home for good stretches of time, so it's good to have good friends out there.
Well, early in the Bassmaster Elite Series timeline, 2006, the inaugural year, the West Coast anglers were really making a push and kind of condensing that map, a lot of really good anglers. Now it seems over the last 5 or 6 years, there's been a lot of those northern anglers, the Seth Fiders, Austin Felix, Chris Groh, the Johnston brothers. I'm even going to mention off Brian Schmidt, Destin Demarian, and Greg DePalma, those guys on the northeast corner. What is it about the way you guys fish back home? Because it's not just smallmouth and light line. There's a lot of good largemouth fishing as well. What has the transition been like fishing up there all year long to then fishing all across the country, including the Southeast?
For me, and I started, fishing down south in 2012. 2013. So I've got a little time into it now, but the biggest adjustments for me was all of our lakes up here are natural lakes. So we don't have reservoirs with that are a river situation, maybe, or we don't actually have any shad up where I live at Lake of the Woods. We have smelt and Cisco and shiners, different bait fish, but we don't have shad. So that was, they're the predominant forage at a lot of the lakes down south. So just kind of learning the nuances of what shad do and how they influence where the bass might be. I got my butt whipped a bunch of times sort of starting out, and I still do here and there. My consistency's for sure a lot better. And, I've kind of put my time into it, and which is most of the guys that kind of make it, that's what we had to do. I was fortunate. I had some, a bit of help to kind of get me started, and I did well enough where I wasn't, losing money at the end of the year. And I'm feel pretty blessed to be where I'm at today, and, getting to fish the Elite Series.
So for you, 2019 was great, qualified for the Classic. Every angler has expectations. They all have pressures that they might put on themselves. There might be exterior pressure. Hey, I don't know, Shelby might be putting the pressure on you to win a Bassmaster Elite Series event. I don't know. But what expectations have you set for yourself going into 2020, to whether it's just little goals or big goals, or where do you want to see yourself take a step over the next year or two in your professional fishing career?
For me, it's just about being consistent and not bombing. And Seth is probably like one of the most consistent guys out there right now. He doesn't miss cashing a check very often, and that's kind of like my goal. And then, I've been close to winning a few of these, and it just, when it happens, it happens. You can't really force that. Obviously, we all want to win every event, and I don't mean to sound like I have the attitude where I'm not trying to win. I absolutely am with everything I have at each tournament, but just being consistent. And then, when you have those opportunities to hit a home run, you gotta, it's so hard to win these big events. And, to see like Paul Mueller do it, he won one last year, won one again now this year. And, Brandon and Jamie winning 2 events last year. I mean, it's impressive, and, it's hard to do, but just for me, I've learned that those opportunities are special and they don't come around all that often. So when you have one, you just hope you can hit the home run and take advantage of it.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here. A fishing tip that you would give people that maybe are in Canada or upper part of the country that have ice. What are the fish doing right now, and how do you even find them? Because for one, I would be hesitant to even walk out on the ice, and for two, I would have no idea what to do when I got out there. Do you have certain spots that when it's unfrozen that you find, and then when it freezes over, you can go over to those and drop straight to them? How does that whole work out for you, and what would you say attacking fish right now in early April before the ice gets done?
So the interesting thing, the smallmouths up north, they almost hibernate during the winter under the ice. They don't eat. They'll group up in these big schools and we call them wintering spots. So if you can picture, you got maybe 3 or 5 miles of shoreline. 90% of those fish are going to all go to the same spot and spend the winter together. So you can catch them we catch them from time to time when we're walleye fishing. We actually caught a few the other night, and if you get a bait in front of them, they'll eat it. Now that we're late in the season, the ice is going to be gone here in a couple of weeks, but the snow's all melted off. There's a lot more light getting through, so you can tell they're getting more active. They're coming up off the bottom to check out your baits, and they're just getting more active. And but as soon as that ice goes out, they know they haven't eaten a whole lot all winter, and they are ready to go. So they'll spend a week or so on these deeper spots, and then they just rush for the warmest water they can find. And usually the big school will kind of move shallow together, and if you can find that's where you can catch. Like I've caught 20 and 20 casts on a jerkbait. But the first 2 weeks after the ice goes out up here, that's when you can catch like 150 bass in a day. It's unbelievable. They don't eat all winter really, so they're ready to go, and they want to get ready to spawn in another month.
So you probably don't want to miss that bite when it's on fire like that. But lining up with the way that the postponement's been, hopefully at some point in May we will get the season back started. The Sabine's still on the schedule, everything like that. So you might miss out on an epic fishing time when the ice gets off, but you'll probably be happy to be back on the Bassmaster Elite Series. So with that being said, what is one event that you're looking forward to that's on the schedule, no matter when those postponed ones go? We don't know when they're scheduled yet, but what are you looking forward to?
The whole schedule is pretty awesome. I think outside of the Sabine, and I think that'll be a fun event, but outside of that, the rest of the tournaments outside of that one are going to be, have the opportunity or potential to have like giant catches. So, I don't know. Those smallmouth tournaments in the summer up north, I mean, I'm excited for those for sure. I'd never fished the St. Lawrence River before last year, so that was I had a blast out there. Had a really good last day of the tournament, and I'm super excited to get back for that one. But getting to go to Lake Fork again, I mean, that's a bucket list place for anybody that bass fishes. So that's right up there too. I don't want to, hopefully we'll get the chance to go there.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you for joining us, Jeff. I appreciate you taking the time from ice fishing, from probably snow blowing some snow off your yard, doing all the stuff around the house that you normally don't get to do this time of year. I appreciate you taking the time to Skype us and talk about your season.
I appreciate it. And just so everybody knows, our plan for this was for me to be out on the ice fishing while we did this, but it was really kind of windy and we had a setback in the weather today up here. So we had to stay in the house. But yeah, thanks for having me. And yeah, hopefully you get to see everybody here soon.
Well,
Stay safe.
We were ribbing each other the other night about it being 85 degrees in Little Rock and it was snowing up in Minnesota or in Canada. But we know that in the summertime hits and it's 70-something degrees up there and it's 100 here, I might be making a trip across the border to come fish with you. So, Gussie, thank you for your time, and we look forward to seeing you on camera at the Bassmaster Elites this year.
Okay, guys, thanks again.
That was Jeff Gustafson, second-year Bassmaster Elite Series Pro, coming off the Classic. He's excited to get the rest of his year going, and one that, hey, he made a couple top 10s last year. He'll be one to watch, especially when we head up north for smallmouth.